Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about using tree assessment and stormwater management tools to guide design decisions in Boise, Idaho. My name is Lita. I'm the creative director here at DeepRoot. We are recording the webinar, and a link to the recorded version will be included in a follow-up email. Attendees will be muted throughout the presentation, but please submit questions at any time using the chat box in the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll have a 10 to 15-minute Q&A at the end of the presentation. And Lance, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter while I continue the introduction. So you should have that. You should have a dialog box popping up on your screen prompting you. Great. So the Treasure Valley Canopy Network is a unique partnership in Southwest Idaho where urban forestry and city planning professionals are working together to use an urban tree canopy assessment to inform strategic and sustainable urban forest investments in local cities. Today, we welcome 5 partners from the network. We'll start with a presentation from Lance Davisson, who coordinates network activities at a regional level. Then we'll hear from Brian Jorgenson, Jason Korn, and Karl Woods, who are working together from a city planning perspective within the city of Boise. We'll end with a presentation from Anthony Guho, who manages a local construction company that is installing sustainable urban forest infrastructure throughout the city. After that, we'll have that question and answer period I mentioned earlier. So now I want to welcome Lance Davisson. Lance is the owner and consultant for the Keystone Concept and has been coordinating Treasure Valley Canopy Network activities since 2012. As you learn throughout the presentation today, the network is involved in a number of activities in addition to informing strategic investments in sustainable landscapes, including energy conservation, clean air, and urban tree canopy links to human health. Lance, take it away.
Thank you very much, Lita. So I get the opportunity to lead off for all of our great partners that have joined this presentation today and give you an idea of where Boise and Idaho's Treasure Valley are located. This is a picture looking from the foothills down into Boise. We have about a 16% urban tree canopy in Boise. If you look, we're located in southwestern Idaho, right on the border with Oregon. If we zoom in a little bit, we have 9 different municipalities within Idaho's Treasure Valley in 2 different counties. The population of this area is around 600,000. And then most of today we'll be focusing on the city of Boise. So this is zooming into the city of Boise, and then we'll really dive down into downtown, which is right in this area. So first I wanted to expose you a bit to the Treasure Valley Canopy Network and how everything kind of evolved. Back in kind of from 2009 to 2011, a group of partners were generating ideas around what benefits urban tree canopy provide to our communities in the Treasure Valley, and they recognized that we didn't really have that data here locally. So led by Idaho Department of Lands and their vision for conducting an urban tree canopy assessment and combining that with ecosystem services data, we wanted to help our communities inform strategic urban forest management on the ground. So together with all the partners, Idaho Department of Lands secured funding from the U.S. Forest Service. And once that funding was secured, was able to bring on a few consulting companies to help manage the project. And then we brought in Planet Geo, a geospatial assessment firm out of Colorado, to help do the urban tree canopy assessment. So by 2013, the assessment was complete, and what this assessment did was it brought in also all the data from a region-wide iTree ecosystem services analysis and developed over 21 gigabytes of GIS data, urban tree canopy data, and tools that can inform not only regional urban forest management, but also for each of our cities. So once that was completed, the next question was, what happens next? We have a great pile of information and data. What's it going to do to help inform management into the future? So Idaho Department of Lands invested in continued coordination of this group. We formalized our name as the Treasure Valley Canopy Network and really focused our mission around the 3 tenets of collaborate, innovate, and sustain for strategic urban forest management, really focused at that time around the ecosystem services that are provided by the urban forest. I'm going to expose you a little bit to some of our resources. I'd encourage you to visit our website at www.tvcanopy.net. And when we created this website, we also wanted to find a way that we could get anybody and everybody kind of exposed to this large amount of data that we have. So we have this Map the Canopy tool, And once you get into that tool, you can see here's a look at the land cover data set. And we continue to update this tool to be able to inform that strategic investment on the ground. So I'd encourage you, if you're interested, to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Treasure Valley Canopy Network, or on Twitter at TV Canopy. And we'll continually update this tool for our communities to use and hopefully inform similar ideas around the country. A few more resources that we've created to kind of help community leaders understand the benefits of urban tree canopy and citizens are some focused infographics. This one is around the benefits of energy conservation if we plant our trees in the right location. We have a look here at some of the ecosystem services provided. This is at the Treasure Valley regional level. And then we also took a little bit of a focus on urban tree canopy, air quality, and how that benefits human health. So to wrap up here, the key pieces for our network are the core group of partners. The partners you see here have been involved since the beginning. It's important to understand that they're public, private, and nonprofit partners, which serves us well as we grow. We've been fortunate to become engaged in some urban renewal work, have partnered up with Idaho Smart Growth in the local green building chapter. And we've also now started to form unique partnerships with some economics groups. We've been able to partner up with Deeproot, who provides the technology to actually implement this strategic urban forest investment on the ground. And also you'll learn a little bit about some of the construction companies that are doing great work here locally. So now it's just to wrap up here, we're now going to step into looking at a local level how we're informing green stormwater infrastructure, urban revitalization, and really that development of functional streetscapes. So it's my pleasure to introduce Brian Jorgenson. Brian is Boise's city forester. He's been a city forester since 2007 and is a certified arborist. And he manages a program that was established back in 1952. They have about 40 to 50,000 public trees and about $1 million annual budget. And Brian will help you understand a little bit more about our downtown streetscapes.
That's correct. Thank you, Lance, for the introduction. I'm going to spend a little time, just to finish out this slide here, I'm just going to spend a little bit, could you go back one, Lance, please? I'm going to spend a little time just talking about the downtown tree canopy. We've got about 2,500 public right-of-way trees downtown. The urban tree canopy in the downtown portion of Boise, kind of the neighborhood downtown of Boise, is sitting at about 18%. That also includes parks. The urban core, when we exclude one of Boise's biggest parks, Julia Davis, and the greenbelt along the river, we come in at about a 10% urban tree canopy. That's what the UTC stands for. Okay, you can go ahead now, Lance. So here's zooming in a little bit then from Lance's City of Boise look, zooming into the downtown core, the downtown neighborhood. It's about 680 total acres, 200 census blocks. The core consists of lots of shops and restaurants, of course, a lot of business, commercial. It's where most of the city government and the state government operates out of downtown Boise. And there's been a big push in the last 10, 20 years to reintroduce some residential living downtown. Go ahead and click to the next slide then. They're highlighted in green. I'm layering different things on the map here. So highlighted in green, you see in the lower right corner is Julia Davis Park. It's one of the oldest parks in Boise. And along the lower left of the downtown area is the greenbelt. There's a few other smaller pocket parks and small parks scattered throughout downtown as well. But that's, we excluded the urban tree canopy for those parks because it's such a big chunk of it. I just wanted to look at what the canopy value is in the urban core, where the downtown trees, most of it is in the public right-of-way, and I see Lance has advanced the slide here again. The dark green is the tree canopy, at least as it looked in 2011. So you can see definitely there's a big portion of that is in the parks and along the river. And most of the stuff in the urban area is on public right-of-way, which falls under the City of Boise's tree ordinance. It's the trees in the public right-of-way are managed by the City of Boise, kind of in partnership with the adjacent property owners. On the next slide, then you'll see we're going to add one more layer. These are the potential planting sites that were identified during our urban tree canopy analysis in 2011. There's about 1,500 potential planting sites total in the area, with about 800 in the urban core. Now, these are in existing green spaces, or existing green spaces as of 2011 when the aerial photography was done. We'll also, it does not include areas that are currently gray infrastructure, sidewalks and parking lots, where there might be some opportunities later on too. Okay, you can go on to the next one. So just to give you a little bit of history of downtown trees and downtown tree canopy, that'll hopefully help lead into some of the other aspects of our talk today. Pre-2013, we were probably historically small tree wells, 4x4, 6x6, which, as you can see from the photo here, a combination of the small size and our extremely hot and dry summertime climate leads to poor health, long-term damage to the trees. They get very little environmental public and limited public and environmental benefits because the trees just can't grow to their potential. And thirdly, if you have trees that end up looking like this, it's going to reflect kind of poorly on Boise and my program, which I don't want to have that happen either. And then with these small tree wells, we typically end up, of course, like everyone else in the country that has that, a limited lifespan, maybe 10 years or a little bit more, before you start to see some significant decline. Okay, you can go on the next slide. So here's a slide. This is the picture of downtown, a portion of downtown Boise, South 8th Street in the 1970s, and then through Capital City Development Corporation's foresight and working with community forestry at the time. This all took place before me coming to the city. You see the transformation of this particular downtown streetscape. It's made a huge difference in the livability and the walkability of downtown Boise. We have a very vibrant and alive downtown here, and I think our current leadership at City Hall has really started to recognize this. At about 2010, 2013, somewhere in that range, I was asked by the mayor's office, what can we do to create bigger trees, to get bigger trees downtown? And the answer was pretty simple, is we need more soil volume. We need a place for tree roots to grow so that they can get what they need to grow to a more significant size and offer those ecosystem benefits that Lance mentioned, some of which are lined up on the left side. I won't go into detail on each one of those, however. The objective is to create a stronger economy, keep people living and wanting to live and work and explore downtown, and create a healthy and active lifestyle. And finally, the stormwater element, which Jason Korn will go into in just a little bit here, was also a very important driver of the canopy for downtown. Okay, I think I have one more slide. So the objective here then in creating an urban forest, strong urban forest presence downtown Boise was to create a place for trees to grow, and that would bring people and use of suspended pavement systems like silvicell, deep-root silvicell, and our downtown core should make that happen. That's about all from my presentation. I'd like to introduce now Jason Korn. He works for the Ada County Highway District stormwater as a stormwater quality specialist. He has 8 years working with ACHD in the stormwater program, and is responsible for planning, construction, maintenance, and operation of transportation infrastructure. And Jason, I'll let you take it away.
All right, thanks, Brian. I'm going to talk a little about the stormwater component of the green infrastructure projects going on in Boise. And as Brian had mentioned, ACHD is responsible for the construction maintenance of all the roadways, sidewalks, and corresponding drainage infrastructure in all of Ada County, including the city of Boise. And this division of responsibilities really provides unique challenges in addressing urban stormwater issues. For example, the ACHD's jurisdiction usually ends at the curb or the end of the sidewalks, and the street trees are managed by the city forestry department, and the city has responsibility for the runoff or coming off of any private properties. And management of stormwater runoff from the Boise area comes from general funds, as we don't have a stormwater utility. Now, fortunately, there's a mechanism that aids in our collaboration, and that's that ACHD in the city of Boise, along with Idaho Transportation Department, Boise Strait, Drainage District 3, and Garden City are co-permittees under a Phase 1 MS4 and PDS permit. It was issued in 2013. Now, our permit has required similar to a lot of Phase 1 MS4 communities, with the requirement for on-site retention of stormwater, runoff reduction of new developments, and off-site mitigation where the on-site retention is not feasible. And the requirement for the construction and monitoring of 3 green stormwater infrastructure pilot projects and the development of subwatershed plans. Now, in 2014, ACHD completed our toolbox of GSI techniques that we deemed appropriate for use in the right-of-way. These include bioretention, bioswales, permeable pavers, and the stormwater tree cells or suspended pavement systems. Now, focusing back on downtown Boise, as you can see, the storm drain system here drains a large impervious area of the downtown core. This runoff is largely untreated directly to the Boise River through a series of large pipes, mostly down the main arterial streets. And even some of these pipe sections are already over capacity. And traditional stormwater treatment options such as retention and detention ponds seen here are not feasible in the urban core for obvious reasons of space and expense. And development densities for new developments usually limit on-site retention options on any of the private developments. And as we expected to begin seeing more installations of these stormwater tree cells, we felt the need to develop criteria to help guide the different scenarios that we're seeing through the permitting process, whether they be agency or developer initiated, if they have a runoff reduction component, or they're being used as part of an off-site mitigation requirement. And CCDC is including the stormwater component on any of the new silver cell installations in their streetscapes where it's feasible and it doesn't negatively impact any of the adjacent buildings, whether they have foundation issues or they have basements. We generally don't install stormwater components in those situations. And construction of street safe improvements on 6th Street from Idaho to Main Street was completed in September of 2014. And these streetscape improvements included the silver cell systems for enhanced growing conditions of the street trees. They also included the stormwater components, as you can see here, that we're able to use some runoff reduction. And this picture is a silver cell installation on Main and 15th that was installed this past summer. And we're monitoring this installation as part of our GSI pilot project program. And the installation, this one and all the previous installations, do not utilize an underdrain. Rather, they have there's pretty well draining materials in the base of all these, and so any overflow would simply bypass the drop inlets and move on down to enter the rest of the traditional stormwater system. And we're monitoring this, as you can see in the distance, or maybe you can't see, there's a camera mounted to the light pole, and we're using that to record storm events and try to identify what level of storm events that we might see bypass of these systems. And as of to date, we have not seen any bypass of the catch basins. They've taken all the water, so they're they're performing quite well and better as predicted in controlling the runoff. We also working with our co-permittees on developing 2 subwatershed plans in the downtown Boise areas. And these are the 2 subwatersheds we're working on: the Main Street, which is the west downtown area, and the Americana watershed, which is one of our biggest storm drain areas, which encompasses a lot of foothills north end and a big portion of downtown. And these watersheds, we're also conducting stormwater monitoring. We have monitoring stations near the outfalls of both of these areas. And as part of the planning process, we have developed the existing conditions. We've developed stormwater models for this area that we can then compare to our actual monitored results, and divided these watersheds up to even further sub-areas, and are utilizing our stakeholder involvement in prioritization of these sub-areas for watershed improvement projects. Now, the goal of this sub-watershed planning process is to identify locations where strategic planning and stormwater controls will improve the water quality in the Boise River. And we intend to use this information to help guide the further use of green infrastructure techniques and sustainable landscapes in the downtown core. And now introduce our next presenter, Karl Woods. Karl is a project manager with Capital City Development Corporation, and Karl is a LEED accredited architecture professional with a passion for sustainable design and construction practices. He oversees improvements of downtown plazas, streets, sidewalks, and pathways in Boise's 4 renewal districts. With that, take it away, Karl.
Thanks, Jason. Let's go to the next slide here, Lance. So good morning, everybody. Going to take a couple of minutes to walk you through what CCDC's involvement is in the streetscapes and in the Canopy Network. We're an urban renewal agency, and we collaborate with local partners to achieve vitality goals. We create new places from disinvested spaces, livable urban neighborhoods, and so forth. We stimulate downtown development with public infrastructure, and we complete long-lasting public infrastructure that stimulates development and improves economic vitality. Let's go to the next slide. So this graphic explains a little bit of the way we operate. We work with partner agencies to align our various planning efforts, and those help inform the urban renewal plans. We're currently operating out of 4 urban renewal districts. You can see those in the middle there. Once we get all those aligned, we create a 5-year capital improvement plan, and that results in a 1-year budget and an associated project list. Next slide. So on this map, you can see geographically where those 4 urban renewal districts are located, and with some of the other maps you've seen prior, it gives you a sense of how ACHG and City of Boise and these other groups end up working together. We only operate out of those urban renewal districts. This is our CIP map, so this shows per year the capital improvement projects that we have planned, and these are typically aligned with our partner agencies, and once in a while we'll have to go back and move things around, make sure that things are coordinated well. This is our roadmap of the next 5 years. Next slide. So we work to improve downtown infrastructure. One of the ways is repairing and widening sidewalks, adding amenities like trees, benches, and streetlights, which strengthens downtown Boise's vitality, beauty, and promotes economic development. This is a bit of a case study of a streetscape this past summer in the River Myrtle district. So we work with design professionals. In this case, it was Jensen Belt and Quadrant Consulting to work with partner agencies, stakeholders, business owners, to develop designs for streetscape improvements that work with everybody's needs. Once those designs are figured out, we get approvals and we go out to bid. One of the things we have learned in the past couple of years with the introduction of Silva cells is we've gone away from an open bid to a pre-qualification based selection of contractors. So we develop a pool of contractors that bid the work to, because it's complicated. It's downtown. You've got a lot of moving pieces and parts. So once we get those contractors on board, we work with property owners, stakeholders, business owners to discuss schedule to make sure that their access is maintained to their businesses, to make this process as pleasant and the least disruptive possible. So you can see in this case, demo has started. Guho Construction was our contractor last summer. They've already started demo, and immediately they get up a safety fence and they grade out the material in front of the businesses to maintain access and to keep things functioning while they do the work. This has been critical. They go out every morning, talk to the business owners, let them know what to expect for the day and for the week. They provide construction access signage, as do we, just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and to try to make it as pleasant as we can for everybody. Also, sometimes we run into parking lot approaches, and so we need to work with those patrons to make sure that they are aware they have different entries in, or even alternate locations in some cases. You can see at this point that Guho is doing some fine grading. They're getting ready for the pavers, and so now we have closed this off. We have signage where we're moving patrons through different exits and entries of the building to maintain access. So this is we keep moving and fine-tuning and modifying access as the project goes along. Let's go to the next slide. From this point, usually just a couple of days, they get all the pavers down, and so these guys just really fly through this stuff. So when the project is all done, in this case particularly, we were able to increase the streetscape width by 8 feet. So on the first slide, you saw an area that didn't have trees. It was in disrepair, didn't have lights for safety or for placemaking. And now you have a nice big public space that's highly utilized. It's very active. It's safe, and it's encouraging people to come down to this part and enjoy these businesses. And let's now hear from Anthony Guho, who was instrumental in the construction last summer. He's a 4th-generation construction manager with Guho Corp, and he has been instrumental in a lot of the streetscape work downtown. He's kind of become the resident expert of Silva cell installations. He's done a vast number of them. And take it away, Anthony.
Thanks, Carl. So a little bit of background on Guho Corp. Lance, you can go up one slide, please. We're a general contractor based out of Eagle, Idaho, which is right outside Boise. We've installed Silva cells on 3 projects last year, starting with City Hall for the city of Boise was our first project, and then we completed 2 projects with CCDC, the old Boise streetscapes, and then the west side streetscapes for them. And then we've also got coming up this spring and summer, we are working on 8th Street streetscapes, and then there's a huge Live District revitalization project going on that's in the design phase right now. So as I said, City Hall was our first project that we installed Silva cells on. It was, we were actually a subcontractor on the overall project. They renovated the whole City Hall inside, and so they were redoing the sidewalks on 3 sides of City Hall was our scope of work. sort of created a perfect learning environment for the Silva-Cell installation, being that was part of an overall larger project. It gave us sort of an extended period of time to do the work, and we didn't have a lot of the constraints we have seen elsewhere with business access and whatnot. So it allowed us to learn and fine-tune the Silva-Cell process, installation, and whatnot. A couple of the challenges on it was we started basically construction during winter, and so we started in November and basically went through the following first part of spring. And then as we were getting ready to get started, basically originally there was no stormwater on the project, and AECHD came to the city and asked that we include stormwater in the project, and so we worked with AECHD in the city on incorporating some stormwater lines and basically brought the stormwater into the Silva-Cell system and took some of that storm runoff out of the existing system. So a couple of the lessons learned with the Silva-Cells on City Hall was the extensive utility coordinations. With the Silva-Cells, you're creating a large excavation to create this vast volume of soil for the trees to grow in, and so you're digging down anywhere 3 to 5 feet down to install the cells, and so you're getting into a lot of utilities. And so City Hall, we were able to foresee that and work that into our planning and make changes and adjust the design to work around those existing utilities. And then also just the stormwater aspect of it, bringing the stormwater in and supporting the pipe inside the Silva-Cells and just how to efficiently manage that water. So then our next projects that we did were for CCDC, and so these were quite a bit different than City Hall. The old Boise Streetscapes project consisted of 4.5 blocks of complete streetscapes, but the major difference here was basically we were working in front of active businesses all along the way. There's sandwich shops, restaurants, coffee shops, and so basically this was a huge disturbance to their business, and so having an efficient construction plan and executing upon that was critical to a successful project. Overall on the project, we installed about 1,700 Silva-Cell units, and then back to what we've learned on City Hall, our extensive utility coordination and planning just further accelerated and minimized any downtimes running into unknown utilities. The old Boise streetscapes were in the historical part of downtown where we were working next to buildings that were 100+ years old, and so there were a lot of old utilities that we had to deal with. So next slide, Lance. So basically planning for success is critical, we found, for these projects, trying to address the problems ahead of time, utility coordination, and then like Karl was saying, communication is key. We're impacting the businesses, their customers, the public that use this for transportation and whatnot, so communicating our plan with all the different people alleviates a lot of the problems, and just they know what's coming, they know what to expect, and there's no surprises. And then we also found, minimizing the impact overall through extended work hours and working around the business that we're affecting. For example, this picture here that you're seeing is in front of Flying M Coffee House. And so, being a coffee house, they're busy early in the morning, and so we would schedule our work so later on in the afternoon we would do our work in front of theirs so they could maintain their business and keep going. And basically just taking an approach overall that businesses come first, and overall if the project goes and it creates a big disturbance and everyone's upset about it, the project's sort of a failure. But if everyone's happy about it and smooth process, you know, it just makes everyone look good and just furthers the overall objectives.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So I will wrap up here before we pass it over to Lita at Deeproot for some questions just on our presentation today, that we're really starting at that regional level, developing those tools for strategic and sustainable investment in our urban forests. I think it's pretty obvious through our presenters today that the long-term sustainability of our diverse partnerships are key to making sure that not only at the regional level you have an effective plan that you can implement, but you've got to be all the way through the process down to what you're implementing on the ground to make sure that your techniques are being executed appropriately, so you're truly affecting a positive impact in your community's urban forest. And really our vision is all built on building those healthy and vibrant cities. So I'd encourage you to learn more and stay connected at our website, tvcanopy.net, and I will turn it over to Lita for some questions.
Thanks so much, Lance. That's great. We do have the contact information for all the presenters up, so do feel free to jot that down if you want to reach out to anybody privately or after the webinar is over. And I also want to add that my colleague Sean, who has been the Deeproot person really overseeing these projects, is also going to join us for the Q&A. So we have had some questions start coming in, and please continue to submit them. If you have a question for a specific participant, please feel free to go ahead and put that so that I know who to address it to. So let's jump in. I think this is probably best for Jason. For anyone who's on the call who doesn't know what a subwatershed is, can you clarify what that is and maybe just put that in context for your general presentation?
Sure. The subwatershed is basically the storm drain system where all the water that's collected ends up through inlets and into a pipe system, and it leads to an outfall. So it's a storm sewer shed or a watershed or a subwatershed. So it's part of the larger Boise River watershed, but it's all the area that drains into a storm drain network. And so we're able to, you know, with monitoring going on near the outfall, we're able to see hopefully any changes that occur in that subwatershed with stormwater controls.
Great, thank you. And actually, while you're answering, we have another one that I think would piggyback really well on that. When you mentioned the materials underneath silvicells that are permeable, does that refer to permeable soils or gravel or something to help more stormwater contribute to groundwater recharge?
Right, so the underlying materials in most of this area around downtown is highly drainable, large cobbles, because it's in that kind of river riparian area. And so there, in any of the infiltration testing we've done, we've usually got quite large infiltration rates. So we haven't had a need for any kind of under drains, and you know, we're pretty confident that most of the water that's going into these systems is able to percolate rather quickly and into the groundwater system.
Thanks, Jason. Anthony, this one's for you. How long does it take to complete a stripped planting pit using silvicell units with an additional footpath from an existing old footpath usage? Sorry, I'm sort of interpreting this question as I go. Can you estimate by meter or foot?
By meter or foot. So
or however you can.
Usually we break it down into a block face or a half block face, and depending on all the constraints and business access, a lot of times we'll break things up around those, but usually we're turning those around in 4 weeks or so, and sometimes faster, you know, if things are clear and we've got room to run. And so what we've found is, you know, working with the businesses and trying to give them some temporary access during that time is critical into keeping everyone happy. So
that's great. Thanks. back to Jason on a stormwater question. Have you estimated the reduction in stormwater flow based on the installation of the silva cells?
Yes, we have done some preliminary modeling using HydroCAD to estimate what the reduction should be. I don't have a lot of specifics as I wasn't directly involved in the modeling, but we do have it, and it is part of our monitoring plan to compare that with observed results.
Mm-hmm. And how long will that monitoring go on, do you anticipate?
We'll monitor it at least until the end of our permit term, since it is part of our GSI pilot project, so at least until 2018. And really what we're looking for is not only its performance and runoff reduction, but its maintenance needs based on what kind of maintenance we are doing as far as cleaning out the catch basins, or if we have to do any sort of heavy maintenance, and how it performs in relation to the amount of effort we're putting in. So we'll go as long as we need to get at least those results.
Great. This next one is probably best for, well, Jason, Anthony, and Brian. You guys can decide how you want to tackle this. But can you talk about the process of soil selection and procurement? How do you determine the soil mix that works best for trees and stormwater?
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay.
Well, this is Brian. I was going to say I think Jason or Anthony would probably best be. I know there was a lot of discussion. We wanted to create a soil that would clearly work for the stormwater where it was required, and also be a good medium for trees to grow in. But the specifics, I couldn't say to that off the top of my head.
Yeah, Anthony,
so,
you go ahead.
Yeah, so what we've basically, we have a spec that on the project that sort of outlines sort of the overall objective of the soil media, and basically the challenge is you have sort of two conflicting or different objectives with stormwater. You know, you want the water to go through it, but then you're planting trees in the soil also, so you want some water holding capacity. And so there's a balance there of finding different soil mixes that basically have that drainage properties, but also have the nutrient values in the organic materials to support the trees. And so it's sort of a trial and error, and we do extensive testing with a local soil lab that they'll test the nutrient value and basically adjust our soil mix accordingly and find what makes most sense for the overall objectives.
Great, thanks. Karl, how are developers responding to the new GI requirements from the city of Boise?
I think it's been a bit of a learning curve, but everybody is excited about it, and everybody is getting up to speed and incorporating suspended pavement systems into their projects. It's going fairly well, really, for being as new as it is.
This one is probably best for Brian. Does Boise have standard specifications that include minimum usable soil volumes per tree?
We have not developed those officially yet. I think we have developed something for the silva cells, and if I'm not correct, maybe Anthony or Jason could jump in on that. I think we're looking at somewhere between 400 and 600 cubic feet of soil per tree, and a developer would need to get a prior approval for doing anything less than that in those downtown uses. Is that correct, Jason? Does that sound familiar to you, or Anthony?
Yeah, that does sound right for the tree policy.
Yeah,
really familiar.
Yeah, we wanted to have enough, and I know some of the research indicates, 1,000 or more cubic feet of growing medium is best to get to really mature growth, but anything is better than the 70 that we were getting with the 4x4 and 6x6. So if they give us 400 or 500, I'll take it, and so will the trees.
Yeah. On that note, since you mentioned the tree pit opening, Anthony, can you tell us what the smallest or average dimensions are of the tree pits for the silvicell projects that you've worked on?
So the standard detail for CCDC downtown Boise is a 4x8 tree frame, and then what they've been doing on the silvicell section is basically surrounding that. They'll go against the curbside. They'll go 2 feet, and then they'll go 3 rows of silvicell behind the tree well towards the building, and then usually those run continuous tree to tree, creating a big volume there. And so basically 3 behind the tree and then 1 sort of splitting the tree, and then we've been doing all 2 deep system on the silvicell, which seems to be working pretty well.
Can I expand on that a little bit too? In downtown Boise, we have planting plans basically, which change up species about every 2 blocks. It's not ideal, but in a case of a single block face, you're going to have the same, pretty much going to have the same species of tree along the whole block face. Those silvicells being interconnected there also give the trees then a chance to kind of share roots ultimately, which should further enhance the health and longevity.
And while we're talking a little bit about the street, there are 2 questions specifically pertaining to that. One is how the pavers that were pictured in some of the photos are holding up with the salt used for ice control.
I don't really have an answer on that one. We don't have very severe winters here, and our use of salt or mag chloride, I think, is generally what gets used on the streets. Has been fairly light compared with like a Midwestern or more northern communities, but maybe Karl can shed some more light on that.
As far as the durability of the pavers?
Yeah.
I don't believe we're seeing much negative impact from that. The only issues we really have with the pavers is from a spacing standpoint when they're too close together and the edges rub and the edges chip. I mean, that's the biggest issue that we've seen.
Brian,
and then the other thing,
go ahead.
Different on the pavers is the CCDC standards. I believe they're a glazed paver, and so there's an actual hard glaze on top of them that sort of seal the paver, where different pavers might be more porous, where that salt would get into them more.
Thanks. Thanks everyone for jumping in on that one. For Brian, what is the reaction of the community when you replace trees for new types of green infrastructure?
It's a mixed bag. You get a lot of calls. The streetscape projects are continuing downtown. New development is coming in several places. We just had to okay the removal of several fairly large honey locusts in a portion of downtown, and that will be replaced by a silvicell system that rings, I think, the entire block, or at least half the block. So I think from my experience, most of the people that I've talked to are pretty excited about it, and they think it's pretty cool to see that, when we may lose trees in the short term, but long term we should have healthier, larger trees for more years to come.
And what kind of maintenance do you expect for the projects, some of the projects that we've mentioned today?
With regard to the trees, or?
Yeah. You know, there have been some questions about whether the soil needs to be removed, or whether there's any other sort of special maintenance requirements.
With regard directly to the trees, it's something that I've been working on for the last year. I'm going to create basically a maintenance plan that probably spans 5 years, and we'll either work through contractors or with the community forestry staff arborists to maintain those trees. It's kind of a sore spot right now, kind of citywide, because we've got the irrigation issue, which is not under the city's control, or I don't believe under any of the partners' control at this point. So there's a lot of planning and coordination that needs to happen for any of this to continue. As far as you know, like a tree removal or something along that line, that is something we'll have to handle as we go forward. Nothing like that has happened yet, but I bet Sean could give some examples of what happens for tree maintenance and removals.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. You know, in terms of long-term maintenance, it's in many ways very similar to what would happen in an existing urban tree planting, where you would remove the tree and then grind out the stump, and then you would be able to replace that tree in the same tree opening. So the silver system would stay in place, the paving would stay in place, and you would simply just remove the tree from the tree opening, grind out the stump, and then plant a new tree within that same space.
Right.
This is a question kind of for the whole group, but Lance, maybe you can kick it off for us. How is it that all of these different agencies have been able to work together in such a collaborative way? That's pretty uncommon.
Yeah, I think that's what's been one of the most rewarding things about working with the network. What we have going on specifically in Boise is some very exciting urban revitalization work that, as you saw from Karl's presentation, a big chunk of downtown is getting changed and enhanced over the next 5-10 years. And when that happens, I think there are a lot of challenges. There's a lot going on. Each of the different agencies has their own mission. Leadership has high expectations and a great vision. And so sometimes when there's so much going on, it's really hard for coordination to happen. But I think through the network meeting every other month, really feeding into and supporting a lot of this work, not only from sharing information and resources, but also bringing in funding and resources to be able to support this work. We've been able to just continue to build those collegial relationships. And so, like for example, the 5 of us that were on the call today, we work together fairly often. So we have those relationships where if, for example, Karl comes up against a wall in a challenge, whether it's with something on the ground or something with leadership, we can talk through and kind of figure out how to overcome that challenge and then do it in a coordinated fashion, which is very important. So does anybody else want to share from your perspectives?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in a little bit, and it's been kind of remarkable. I've been with the city of Boise for 20 years, and for at least half that time we've been pushing for greater soil volume downtown, and we're kind of just ignored, more or less, at the time, mostly due to cost concerns, of course. I think this whole coordination and collaboration between all of these groups has really it's really kind of resulted a lot from what Lance was talking about, but it was just kind of a perfect storm with the right people in the right places at the right time with the same objectives of trying to create a healthy and vibrant downtown Boise for everybody. Anyone else?
Okay. Well, we're coming up to the hour, but we have so many questions. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, but let's see if we can squeeze in a few more before time runs out. This one is for Anthony. As green stormwater infrastructure designs and solutions become more prominent, can you talk a little bit about the interest and awareness on the part of contractors for this business? Are contractors willing to take on these new projects despite the inherent risk of learning as you go?
Yes and no. There seems we've, as a company, sort of gotten on board and really buy into the whole process. But it's different for a lot of contractors and a lot of new details that they're not familiar with, and so there's some hesitation, it seems, out in the marketplace for the contractors just not understanding the whole system. But I know, personally speaking, once you learn and sort of see what the overall process is and everything, it makes sense. And the overall, everyone's learning from what's not working by not using these products, and here's a solution that solves multiple problems, and it's going to show in the future. So
thanks. And while we have you talking, can you answer one specific question that came in about whether silva cells are under the whole sidewalk in the projects that we discussed, or whether they're just a portion of it?
So they generally run most of the width of the sidewalk. They'll keep them back 2 feet or so from the back of curb, and then they'll stay a couple feet off of the building face. And then lengthwise of a block, they'll usually try to run them in as long of runs as possible, and then they'll break them at any driveway or alley approaches. And so usually they're pretty big areas, taking up quite a bit of the sidewalk area to give the trees the maximum area to grow, and also have the stormwater volume there to take on the runoff. So.
Great.
Can I chime in a little bit on that too?
Sure.
I think, Anthony, was it not the case the City Hall project was done with kind of monolithic? They were separated silva cell banks that each tree was put into, but I think the rest of them, like you say, have been continuous block face planters.
Correct. So at City Hall, basically there were 2 half blocks that had silva cells installed, and along Main Street they had the long continuous runs that I was describing, and then along 6th Street there was basically 4 trees, and each tree had an individual pod of, I believe it was 36 cells per tree, and they weren't connected. And it seems like the designers have all gone towards more of the long continuous runs. Especially that makes a lot more sense when the stormwater comes in, because you get a lot more volume, and the piping sort of plays into that as well.
Brian, you said in your presentation that Boise's tree canopy is currently at about 18%, and I think you said 10% of that was in the urban core. Does Boise have a specific plan to increase their urban tree canopy cover, and if so, what is that plan?
We are working now to complete a 10-year management plan which addresses some of those issues. The city of Boise overall averages about a 16% tree canopy. The downtown area, inclusive of the parks, was about 18%. And then we have information for each of the neighborhoods around the city too. And I think a lot of what we plan to do is not so much focus on the citywide tree canopy goals, but more neighborhood goals, working with individual neighborhoods and businesses downtown to help achieve the goals. One of the recommendations in our as yet draft management plan is to shoot, and help me out if I'm misquoting it, Lance, is we're going between we're at 16% now. I think we're looking at getting up to possibly 25% over the next 10 years. in that range, 15 to 25%.
Yep, those are the numbers.
Okay, good.
Brian and Karl, how have you measured, or do you plan to measure, the streets that are being regenerated in the downtown core that we've discussed today?
Measure the benefits?
Yeah, measure the benefits, measure just the success, I would say, from a design standpoint. However you plan on sort of evaluating what worked well, what didn't work so well.
Well, a lot of it from the urban perspective will just be the growth and health of the trees. We have a tree inventory. We're actually moving to a more of a map-based or GIS-based tree inventory system as we speak to. So we'll be able to kind of watch those trees and hopefully compare them to some of the kind of legacy planters, the 4x4 planters that we've got out there now to really see. I expect to literally see big things out of these trees over coming years, and we'll have to work hard with Karl and the business owners and everything to make sure the trees are well cared for and healthy and meet the goals of CCDC and residents and business owners downtown.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Brian. Is to watch these over the next couple of years, and I'm really excited to see bigger, better trees than we've had before. And one other thing I want to add is one of the ways that we measure it is in continuing the streetscape network. And so we have, as the streetscape networks grow, there's more vibrant, comfortable places for people to continue to explore different parts of the city, and that's one of the ways that that I think we measure success is seeing that expand.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, actually a little past, so I think we should wrap up. Lance, do you have anything you want to say before I kind of go through what attendees can expect after the webinar ends?
No, just thank you very much to Deep Root for hosting and for all of our partners for participating, and we're really anxious to see the rest of those questions and continue a dialogue with the folks that have participated today.
Great. Yeah, we did have more questions than we could get to, but the presenter contact information is up on the screen, and of course there will be the follow-up email from me going out later today. So as Lance said, we do hope we can continue the conversation. So I too want to thank everyone for attending today. A link of the recording will be sent out in that follow-up email and will also be on the Deep Root YouTube channel. Lance, Jason, Brian, Karl, and Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.